Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about some of my fondest memories from arcades. And unlike most of the videos I do, I'm actually going to ask you guys to make your own video response to this. I'd love to hear some of your favorite memories from years ago at the arcade. So let's begin. I actually don't know what my first real arcade that I played was. Back when I was in elementary and when I was in high school, there were arcades everywhere, everywhere. Every major city had I don't know, 2 or 3 dozen arcades. It was like the thing. Obviously today, like here in Montreal where I live, there's next to none. There is one big one and there might be like 1 or 2 others, but they're pretty much dead, as is the entire arcade industry all over North America. I'm not sure about Europe, and I know in Japan there's still like little niches that exist, but I know for sure in North America it's finished. Anyways, so I'm not sure what the first arcade was. I'm not one of these guys who's like, oh, I remember going and playing Donkey Kong, and yeah, I'm not that old. But it probably was. Like one of my first arcades probably was Popeye or Pac-Man or one of those. It was definitely before the second renaissance, if you will, where Street Fighter 2 came out, and then just arcades exploded all the way up until, what, 95, 96, 97, something like that. And then it just sort of slowly died out until it completely died. So anyways, I don't remember my first arcade. I really don't. But I just want to talk about a couple of memories that I do have, and some of the big machines from back in the day. And one of my biggest, fondest memories, if you will, from the arcade days were 2 types, well, actually 3 types of games. The beat-em-ups, the one-on-one fighters, and shmups. Now, today I'm primarily going to talk about fighters because that's the one that everybody has their fondest memories is usually of fighters. I mean, shooters, there were quite a few, like R-Type and all those. But I don't have quite as many memories of those for some odd reason. I'm sure if I walked into an old arcade museum and I looked around and be like, oh man, I remember blah blah blah. But for the most part, here are a couple of examples. One is when Street Fighter 2 came out. I actually remember that day. I don't remember it was Wednesday, October 21st, like that. I don't remember that. But I remember finishing school, and there was an arcade that was really close by to us, and a couple of us would typically go, depending on the time and this and that. But we went on this particular day. We went to our local arcade, and there were lineups outside the building, and so all of us were like, what the hell? So we walked up, and they were all like, oh, there's this one-on-one fighter. It's like a beat-em-up type thing, but it's like you're fighting each other. Now, I don't know if this actually, I don't know if our arcade got it on the week of its release or the month of its release. I have no idea, because back then there was no internet, so all the information that you'd get would be from game magazines. And these game magazines, I don't even remember reading too much about Street Fighter back then, so I don't know. Anyways, whatever. The point is, I remember when the arcade got the new cabinet in, all these people, we ran up and we were like, what the hell's going on here? What's it's craziness. And they were like, yeah, you got to try this out. It's amazing. It's revolutionary and all this jazz. So anyways, we waited. Me and a couple of my friends, we waited in this lineup, and it must have taken, well, it felt like it took 4 hours, but it probably was only 20 minutes or so. And anyways, we get into the arcade finally, and it was a weird experience. You saw all these rows of arcades, and there was no one playing anything. It was just all these people lined up just to go in and play Street Fighter. And he only had 1 cabinet, and I remember this fondly. It was crazy, because you had 2 rows of people the whole way, and you sort of, when we realized what this was, you sort of prayed that that everyone sucked, and everyone did suck, because it was the first time anyone had played this. And the way it worked was, the arcade owner, he was like, okay, you put in your quarter, and you can, you pick your character, and you're fighting against another person, and if you lose, that's it. You have to go back to the back of the line, and then the person who won could continue on. But it was like, I think at most there was some guy who won like 4 matches or whatever. So that's why it didn't matter which lineup you were in. So anyways, we all get into our lines and whatever. We're waiting, and I remember it was so popular and so many quarters were being fed into this machine that they actually had a guy standing there with a key in his hand, and he would go in and have to take out the quarters every, like, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, or whatever. I don't remember, but whatever. I just remember seeing that guy and all the people, all the noise, the yelling, all the blinking lights and all the sound from the other arcades. And I remember looking around going, wow, because the arcade was empty. There was no one playing anything else. Every single person was in that damn line waiting to experience Street Fighter 2. And it's one of my fondest memories from the arcades. And I'll just never forget it. It was so amazing. And look at the smile. I was like, it still brings back amazing memories whenever I think of this. Another one was when we actually received, well, that particular arcade, when it received the Neo Geo MVS. I vividly remember this. I believe they had it before Street Fighter 2, but I don't think anyone had given it a chance or anything like that. I'm not entirely sure. I remember when everyone sort of discovered the Neo Geo MVS at our local arcade, because suddenly it wasn't so like Street Fighter. There wasn't like thousands of people lined up, or at least hundreds or 2 dozen or whatever. But it was when people realized, wow, like I can actually select a game I want to play. And I remember back then, like Art of Fighting and what else was there? Fatal Fury, all those type of games. And it was all around the same time as Street Fighter 2. It was when like fighting games really hit like the mainstream. And with the Neo Geo, I remember personally going through and selecting these games. I was like, wow, this is so cool, like this is almost like a console. Because with a console, you go, you buy your games, you just plunk them down and have fun and go nuts. But with this, it was like, I can actually like press different buttons. My quarter will actually last, it'll be different credits in all these different games. Like, I can pick, say, Fatal Fury or whatever, put in my quarter, boom. If I'm done with that and no one else is challenging me or whatever, no problem. I can just switch to like Nom, put in a quarter and continue playing. I remember that was really, really interesting. And one final one I just want to talk about, another like fighter thing before I open the floor to all of you, is I remember hearing about Mortal Kombat. I think all North American like kids and teenagers and whatever remember this, if you were into that scene. There was like blood and stuff, and I remember like, what, a fighting game with blood, like what? And again, I vividly remember when the arcade actually received their first Mortal Kombat cabinet. It was it didn't garner the same kind of attention. Like, it wasn't like rows of people lining up to play the game, but it was just the amount of people watching. It was like you had your 2 players, and you did have like a small line for those that wanted to play it next, but there was like dozens of people all around, huddled around the arcade, because they had never seen something like that before. I mean, ripping off someone's head and seeing their little spine dangle and stuff was just, whoa, what is happening here? And we all sort of knew that this was going to cause some controversy, and controversy it did indeed cause, and it eventually led to the formation of the ESRB and everything like that. So those are just 3 little examples of some of my favorite arcade memories. Nothing will ever top the Street Fighter one, obviously. That was really, really special. That was something. Over the years, it's sad that the arcades have sort of fallen by the wayside and what have you, but you can't take away my memories. And no matter what happens, I'll always have fond memories of going to the arcade. I mean, all the way back from when my parents used to take me up through to when I was a teenager, used to go and enjoy all those Capcom fighters, like the X-Men fighters and things like that. And it's kind of sad that arcades are just no longer with us in the same way. The consoles have sort of like just overshadowed it because of the power of the consoles and the way they can bring it together and like people together with online functionality and stuff like that. But you know what? At the end of the day, nothing's ever going to surpass those classic arcade memories. Those were the days, as they say. So now, thanks for watching. That was my my personal my personal memories on just three little memories that I had on some of my favorite times with the arcades. But now I'd like you guys to post a video response and to tell me about your favorite memories from the arcades. Even if you didn't play many arcade games, just what are some of your memories? I mean, arcades are pretty much dead now, so this should be a fun thing so we can all reminisce with one another. Thanks for watching, and I really look forward to hearing your stories.
Do